Beans are and will remain one of the most important commodities prioritized by the government of Uganda. They offer a good source of balanced nutrition for the people and are increasingly becoming a lucrative source of income for the farmers, traders, and the processors alike. Unfortunately, access to improved quality of bean varieties remains a challenge for Ugandan farmers, many of whom continue to grow the same varieties as those grown by their parents or even grandparents.
Mmere lero mu ttaka lyagwayo kati muntu akungula bukunguzi bumere butonotono wakulyako buli naye nga tebukuuma njala. Nkuba nti ebeera ntono ate kati obubuuka ne bujja ne bulya wadde malagala ago obubuuka bujja nga bulya kale n'osigalawo
Many of them say that they don't have any knowledge about the improved bean varieties, and those who do not know where to get the seeds from. For the record, the National Agricultural Research Organization have been involved in enormous research to breed new bean varieties that meet the varied needs of the people, but their adoption rates are still very low, hampering the government's efforts to increase food security and poverty alleviation among her population. This worrying scenario can be attributed to several factors, among them low awareness and bad perception about improved seed technologies, unfavorable policy or legal environment for investment by the private sector, and the insufficient production of early generation seed and certified seed. It is against this background that the Partnership for Seed Technology Transfer in Africa project, abbreviated as PASTA, sought to leverage and join the efforts by NARO's beans breeding program at Namulonge and seed companies such as the Community Enterprises Development Organization, abbreviated as SEDO, to speed up the adoption of improved bean varieties by farmers.
The PASTA project was established to contribute towards the bigger goal of AATF of enabling smallholder farmers to access appropriate and improved technologies which otherwise would be difficult for them to access. So PASTA project in Uganda has been working with different stakeholders, including those from government and also those from the private sector. In Uganda, particularly, we've been working with the NARO and Makerere University to evaluate and avail good improved technologies to smallholder farmers. Like here, this is a beans demo. We are demonstrating the performance of different varieties of beans. This is a narrow bean 2, for example. And we have narrow bean 1 as well. These improved varieties were developed by NARO, which have improved amounts of zinc and iron. The PASTA project targets to deliver technologies to smallholder farmers which improve their productivity and also which tackle some of the long-term threats to their production.
The narrow bean varieties, now stretching from narrow bean 1 to 7, have superior advantages over the earlier release varieties and land races because they are early maturing, getting ready in as early as 2 months, resilience to the different climatic changes and working comparatively well on poor soils, tolerant to pests and disease resistant. They cook very fast to save the fuel energy. They have adequate dry weight for both the farmers and the traders, and above all, meet the size, color, and taste preferences of the different targeted communities. The journey in the development of new bean varieties starts with research and development.
The Uganda Health and Demographic Survey that was conducted in 2006 showed that a lot of young children and mothers were suffering from malnutrition, particularly due to anemia and due to poor growth and stunted, which means the issue of zinc comes into play. And the better way to introduce this important micronutrient into the bodies of people is through food, basically. And secondly, we realized that beans is one food crop that is eaten throughout the country, and that we can introduce this important micronutrient into the bean variety through the natural breeding process. So those particular materials that were released first had an average of about 72 parts per million, from about 53 that is existing in the normal beans. Now we are trying to raise that level to about 90 parts per million of iron and about 40-45 parts per million of zinc. And to date, I've bred and released close to 20 bean varieties. They're destined for different markets and farmers. So by that, we'll be achieving the objective to save the health situation that is prevailing at the moment. So we have partners who help us do that kind of work.
In this direction, the PASTA project partnered with the Beans Program of Namulonge Crop Resources Research Institute, abbreviated as NACRI, and the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries to release and register narrow bean 6 and 7 in April 2019. By the end of 2020, the partnership has been able to produce 10 metric tons of foundation seed and pass it over to the Community Enterprises Development Organization and Equator Seed for further multiplication and dissemination.
Under the project, we have been able to establish technology transfer centers in the districts of Chiboga, Rakai, and Masaka. Within these technology transfer centers, we've established 5 different varieties. That is narrow bean 1, narrow bean 2, we have narrow bean 3, then narrow bean 6, and narrow bean 7. We've been able to see an increase in the volumes at household level and group level, where 1 kilo of narrow bean 1 has been yielding up to 50 kilograms. Another thing under the project has been that the farmers have been able to understand the different agronomy practices on issues of spacing, disease and pest management, and how to do timely harvesting, as well as the final post-harvest handling of the beans that can lead to increased production and productivity at farm level.
To date, over 200 metric tons of certified seeds have been sold through the different networks. The PASTA project has worked together with NARO and the Agriculture Ministry to develop both plant variety protection and narrow commercialization policy, both of which enable commercialization of varieties produced by NARO.
So those 200 metric tons of certified seed will plant an estimate of 1,000 acres of land. And we have been working with NARO and the Ministry of Agriculture to put policies and regulations in place to create an enabling environment for commercialization, for investment by the private sector, and building confidence and motivation in the breeders, the ministry, and the farming community. So all these activities combined will increase the adoption of varieties, the increase to uptake, and later on to improvement in the livelihoods of smallholder farmers.
Riding on this success, Mamedicot, a financial institution serving the Greater Masaka region, partnered with the PASTA project, NARO and Makerere University to to popularize the new bean varieties among her members as a critical pathway to commercializing agriculture.
This institution was started by farmers who have been giving crop finance since inception. The agricultural loans are lower than the other loans so that the owners can benefit from our services. We have been linking them to organizations like PASTA, which is researching on beans. We have some universities which gives us their students and researchers to research on different things, primarily in agricultural linkages. We have been helping them to link them with seed multipliers like a SEDO, whereby a farmer gets contracts before producing. We finance them. He produces knowing the price at which he will sell, and at the end of the day, they buy almost everything which he has produced. Secondly, we help the farmers form groups, and we also help them to enlarge their production by providing group finance, so that when they are in groups, they do group marketing, which is easier other than a single person when he's looking for a market.
Many farmers in the project area and beyond are quickly maximizing the opportunity introduced by this partnership.
I've benefited in such a way that we have gone through various trainings, including the digitalization of agriculture. We've had trainings on using the MFN app that registers farmers. And this app helps a farmer, even without a smartphone, to link up with the various stakeholders, such that after your yield or whatever communication you want from any stakeholder, you can easily link up because your information is directly in the database. In terms of earnings, I'm really a happy farmer because formerly I would even fail to cater for my garden. But this time around, I'm able to look after my garden efficiently and in time because of whatever I achieve from the proceeds of what I sell out of my produce.
Okusingira ddala nze ndi mulimu wa nsigo ennongooseemu ng'era bwe nzirima nzitwala mu SEDO, ate SEDO nasobola ate okuzongera eri abalimi abalala ebijanjalo bino ebirongooseemu bisobole okwala, ate era omukisa gwe nfuna bwabeerayo ekika ekirala ekipya nfuna enkizo okukola ki? Okukirima. Kati nga sizoni eno nange nalimyeko ku kijanjalo Narrowbean 7. Kakati bantu bwe balabye ekkala yaakyo kiddugavu tebakyagadde nga babuuza akatale kali luddawa naye nga ate akatale kakoze eki gye kali. Kakati nakyo ndi mu kigezesa ndabe enkola gye kikolamu.
To expedite the adoption process, the PASTA project worked with farmer groups, progressive farmers and local leaders to organize field days and bean exhibitions to demonstrate the good agronomic practices and economic potential of the improved varieties. TV and radio programs to reach a wider spectrum of farmers and other listeners have also been used extensively.
Kati twatandikawo wano mu kitundu kyaffe radio ey'oku mizindaalo kati nga buli lwakuna essaawa 2 ez'ekiro abalimi bonna batuusako amawulire ku nnima ey'omulembe n'okusingira ddala ebijanjaalo ate n'okukyusa endowooza zaabwe balime nga balimire okulya naye ng'essira liri mu ki kufuna.
And also they've helped us become visible on radio, on TV, talking to farmers on the different bean varieties, and be able to either look for that product in a market or ask more information on that particular variety.
If only these public-private partnerships created by PASTA project is scaled up, the move to commercialization of agriculture through empowering the smallholder farmers to adopt them will be attained much sooner than later.
The partnership here is really to speed up the processes which takes to release some of the pipeline varieties, which are some of them also rich in the iron and zinc, so that they can easily get released and registered and commercialized so that they get to the hands of the farmers. That's been a bottleneck because the process is quite long. It goes through so many seasons of testing. It has to go through on-farm testing and then fulfill all the release requirements before it gets out and registered. So that's why that project has come. Another bottleneck usually after release is also the amount of initial seed from the breeder before it gets handed over to private sector or farmer groups or to the farmers. The seed quantity is usually very small, and it takes some time to bulk that seed, not in less than 2 or 3 years. So that partnership has come to bridge and reduce those constraints so that we can, number one, speed up release of the new products in the pipeline. Number two, bulk seed so that we can also speed up the uptake of these new varieties. Our focus has been mainly to do the last testing, which is to get this data which is needed for release and make sure that the products are competitive with what is already on the market, because it's not releasing for the sake of releasing. Yeah, number one. Number two, we're also multiplying seed of some of the popular varieties that were recently released, especially some of these nutrient-dense varieties, so that can reach many more farmers. As you know, many people, like you said, have not heard about these zinc-rich and iron-rich bean varieties. Yeah, part of the reason is they have not have access to the seed, in addition to the information. So we are also bulking now on scale the seed, especially for breeder and foundation seed, so that more certified seed can be produced by the private sector or the farmer groups, so that it can reach more quantities can be able to reach the farmers.